Imagine, it's 2010, it's summer, it's 10 a.m. on a Sunday, and you go to your local GameStop. You're not really looking to buy anything, you just want to look around and peruse the store, and you want to see what has released recently that you just haven't seen. Now imagine it's 2025, it's early spring, and instead of being 10 a.m. on a Sunday, it's 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, and instead at your GameStop, you're at home, looking at PlayStation Store. And you see this, this, and this. Now, I don't know when it started, but PlayStation used to heavily moderate every game that was allowed on the store, almost to the point that even actual dev companies weren't allowed to put their games on the store whatsoever. But now it's more like, hey, can I? Yes! And now because of that, the store is flooded with these AI cash grabs using AI for cover art, and even sometimes AI art for just straight up part of the game. I mean, take a look at this one. This one's called Slide Defenders by Nostra Games. And get used to seeing these guys because this company is the king of this. They flood the store with these type of games. And something you'll notice is that almost all these games look exactly the same when you get into the actual game. It feels more like a mobile app company that somehow is getting permission to flood the store with these like terrible little cash grabs. And what's actually insane is that people are actually buying these things. Now, PlayStation doesn't release numbers still for some reason, but we can at least see that some games have received ratings, and I would bet that a lot of these are probably botted because, you know, when people see the ratings, they'll probably be more likely to buy it. They're all basically the same game, just advertised differently with slightly different gameplay. Well, some look pretty good. But Nostra's not the only company on here that's posting these AI games. I mean, look at this one I found. It's literally just a basic mini game that when completed reveals an AI image of a woman. You'll notice a pattern with these same mini games appearing over and over again. It's always the same mini games. These like walking forward collection mini games, or just a jumping or puzzle scam game that you see for ads on X. Now these games are bad, however, at least they're low in price, and even if you somehow got tricked into spending your money on these things, at most you'd be out just a few dollars, and some of them are even free, like the one I was showing beforehand. However, they're still way better than these next games, which I would consider to be actually just straight up scams and ripoffs. You don't have a PC, but you see your favorite YouTubers playing the most recent popular games out there, and you want to play them too? Don't worry, we have Lethal Company. We have Only Up. We have Monster Hunters, which I think has been recently removed because I cannot find it anywhere except for this old screenshot. And we even have Bodycam. Not really though. I mean, look at these games. They're not even trying to hide the fact that they're just blatant ripoffs of some other popular games that have been going around. Now for some, if you have a working frontal lobe, you could easily tell that these are fake games. But look at this Bodycam one. It's actually very hard to distinguish. And if you were a kid and you saw your favorite YouTubers playing this and you wanted to play it too, you probably wouldn't even think twice before buying it because of how hard it is to actually tell the difference between this and the other thing. I mean, just look at the description. It even says that it's an offline single player only. And I know that Bodycam is more of a style of game now than it is an actual title. But look at these titles and tell me they're not made to confuse people. That's why these are probably the worst offenders you'll probably find on the PlayStation Store. I mean, and once you realize you got scammed, the process of getting a refund on PlayStation is like 1,000 times harder on PlayStation than it is on something like Steam. And I actually found someone who actually bought this game.
There we are. So this is the abandoned factory. And as you can see, it's very detailed. Enemies are pretty much everywhere. You've got to get up pretty close to shoot them. Including this guy up here. So the detail is good, is good.
And from what I can actually tell is that most of these games never actually make it live on the PlayStation Store. Some of them do, as you can see, you know, with these screenshots and whatnot. But a lot of them actually just sit in to be announced hell. I've seen some of these games sit here for months, almost a year now. I don't know if it's because they're going through some legal battle or if they're having to like actually make a game, but it's just you'll see these things on the wish list or on to be announced, or new games come to PS5, but you won't actually see them come to the PlayStation Store. And the ones you do are oftentimes the worst looking things you could ever imagine. Now, I'm not really in the party of pulling these games from the PlayStation Store, because the fact that small devs can even get their game on the PlayStation Store in the first place is such a huge thing. In the past, like I said before, many game companies couldn't even get their game on the PlayStation Store. It was so difficult for it to happen that PlayStation always just felt like it was out of the indie genre. It just couldn't get into it because for being in a AA game, which is where a lot of indie games sort of rest, they just couldn't make it. So I would rather have the store have some scams and more games than no scams and less games. However, that doesn't mean that some of these games should be pulled whatsoever. I mean, like this body cam ripoff, they are basically playing off the fact that you don't notice and for ignorant kids to just buy the game anyway. And games that kind of target kids like this, I think, are just awful, because once they get into the game, it's nothing like advertised and it's just straight up a scam. So I don't like that whatsoever. And there's literally hundreds of other examples on the store right now that I can't even show in this whole video. It would take way too long. Or some games that aren't exactly ripoffs, more like parodies, but the parodies are so poorly made that this honestly like considered a scam in my eyes, at least, because you have a price tag on something and you go to buy, and I know that price tags don't necessarily mean a good product, but when you have the PlayStation Store, who is supposed to vet most of these things going on there, and then you pay for something and it's not what you were expecting, it's sort of not really a good thing. And it seems like the only way to actually get something pulled from the PlayStation Store is either to commit straight up copyright infringement, or if millions of people are complaining. Like when Cyberpunk was released, this was an official company by CDPR Red, and Cyberpunk was so bad they actually pulled it from the store. However, when you have a game that's a straight up ripoff or scam, or maybe even if it's just, again, not exactly worth the money or the price tag, it's overpriced, PlayStation just doesn't seem to care. Now, if you have a PlayStation, I suggest you go look for yourself and just see how many there are. You will be surprised. Just go to the new games for PlayStation or wish list, and you can just scroll down and you'll see these scams everywhere. I wanted to talk about this a lot because honestly, no one's talking about this whatsoever. And this video is more of just a PSA to warn people like, hey, look, PlayStation Store no longer vets their games and companies anymore. They will put anything on the store, which I think, again, is a good and bad thing. I just think that stores have become too normalized with allowing these scam and rip-off games to go under the radar, because as the buyer, you're supposed to be more cognizant of what you're spending your money on. However, if a grocery store started selling spoiled milk and eggs and dairy and any sort of produce, the store would be the one with the bad rep. However, when it comes to PlayStation Store and Steam, a lot of these companies or people just assume that, oh, it's your fault because you bought it. You should have paid more attention. You should have done more research. But yes, technically, like, that's true. But it's also true that these games need to at least moderate what is being put on the store in the first place, or at least have a section for these things. I mean, yes, the developer themselves will not put their game in the scam/ripoff section. That is obvious. But people should be able to designate a game themselves, like make tags for the game, and then that's where the game goes. I think Steam does that. I'm not exactly sure if Steam does that or if the developer has to do it themselves. I'm not sure how that works, but it should be allowed on PlayStation. And I think something that PlayStation could do to just mitigate this problem is to actually let people see how many people are playing their game. I don't know why this is such a hush-hush thing. Maybe they're worried that some of their first-party games, when they don't perform well, that if you see the player count, it'll make people buy it less. So maybe that's one of the things they have an issue with. But I think another good thing would be allowing people to actually review the game they're buying. Because yes, you can see like a rating now, which is something, but I want to see what people are actually saying about the game in the first place. So as I said, this is more of just a PSA to be like, hey, watch out. They're not regulating anything anymore. And so if you see a game on there that's been popular lately, you got to really double check if it's really on there, especially if it's more of a AA or single A game made by a very small developer, or even sometimes one person. Odds are it's not on PlayStation Store. Or if it's one of those big popular games that like gets popular on YouTube for a few months, like Lethal Company did or Bodycam did, it's probably not going to be on there. So just as just a PSA, and just be careful what you're buying and be careful shopping. Thanks for watching. See you guys later.